Hey songwriters, welcome back. In today's video, I wanted to take a challenge, and that was to see if I could remake Ed Sheeran's Beautiful People entirely in GarageBand. And beautiful people, designer clothes, front row in fashion shows. That's right, I wanted to use GarageBand's stock instruments, stock presets, sounds, plugins, only the things that are contained within the stock version of GarageBand. So here's what we're gonna do in this video. First, we're gonna start by showing you the completed project, the finished product, because I want you to be able to listen and go, okay, is it close or is it way off? And then after that, I'll be taking you inside of the GarageBand project to show you how I remade this song. What sounds did I use? How did I come up with the processing so that you can learn to start producing music inside of GarageBand? So without further ado, here's the GarageBand version of Ed Sheeran's Beautiful People. We are. LA, on a Saturday night in the summer, sundown and they all come out. Lamborghinis and their rented Hummers. The party's on, so they're heading downtown. Everybody's looking for a come up, and they wanna know what you're about. Me in the middle with the one I lovin'. We're just trying to figure everything out. We don't fit in well, cause we are just ourselves. And I could use some help getting out of this conversation here. You look stunning, dear, so don't ask that question here. This is my only fear, that we become and beautiful people. Dressed in designer clothes, front row in fashion shows. What you do and who you know, inside the world of beautiful people. Champagne and roll the notes, prenups and broken homes, surrounded but still alone. Let's leave the party. That's not who we are. We are. We are not beautiful. Yeah, that's not who we are. We are not beautiful. All right, how'd we do? Did we nail it or did we fail it? Now, I know it doesn't sound exactly the same. That's not the point. The point was, can we get close using GarageBand's stock instruments and processing? Because if we can get close, that's really good news for you GarageBand users, because that means we can start to learn how to use GarageBand's instruments and processing to craft your own sound and to produce really high quality pop songs with a program that's on your laptop. So now let's dive into part 2 of this video. Let's get inside of the project, and I want to show you how I remade this song in GarageBand. All right, welcome inside the project. And I wanna show you how I got the different instrument sounds and vocal sounds, but I wanna start with instruments first, then do vocals last. And even before that, what I'll say is, what I had to do to remake this is I simply listened to the lyric video over and over and over and over and over. I just listened to like little clips. I mean, I listened to this first 2 seconds over and over, because within that first 2 seconds, you hear a couple of things. One, you hear like this click, like a clicking or whatever it is. And so I went searching for loops, like a camera click loop, which is not exactly what they're using. So I added it in with my own. I was like, I'm not gonna spend all day on that. So I went ahead and that was good enough. Then I listened for the beat. So again, if you listen to these first couple seconds, that's actually like the cleanest and clearest example of the kick and clap that you're gonna get. And so I listened to that first couple seconds over and over. And so what I did was, first I just got the beat down. So I went in, got a kick and a clap, and made sure that everything was lined up. So I recorded it. And then I literally went through and tried every single different sound, drum sound that GarageBand offered to see which one came the closest. And so what I did was I separated the kick out from the clap, so I have just the kick on a track, and I ended up landing with the crate digger because I thought that sounded the most similar to the real version. And then I did the clap, did the boutique 808, but then I ended up layering it with another clap, kind of pulled back, just gives it a little more, yeah. All right, so after that, now that we got the drum beat, you can hear this sound that's kind of like dum 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 dum. And so it was really hard to recreate that. I actually looked through almost every patch, every sound that GarageBand had. So I started with this synth chime wash, whatever that is, which is not exactly like it, but it gave me the ding ding that I wanted. And then I added kind of some pluck with the Dream Dancer. And it was like, okay, that's getting closer, but it needs some air, like it needed air behind it. So I used a pad called the Airways. And with those three, it's like, it's not bad. It's pretty close. It's pretty close. So that's probably where I spent the most time, honestly, as far as trying to get the right sound, was trying to figure this out. All right, so then right before you hear the first big part of the song, you hear this big boom. So I realized it's like, when I was listening, it's like, okay, it's some kind of tom, like really deep tom that has a lot of reverb, but also there's like this long tail that's like, and so as I made the tom, I was like, okay, that's close, but it doesn't have the long tail, the zoom. And then I realized, oh, that's like a boom in GarageBand. And so I pulled a loop out of GarageBand called boom. So if you go into loops, you type in boom, check this out, bros and sisses. You've got all of these awesome booms, boomer effects. So you get the idea. They're just these super long, heavy, hard hits, but they have these cool long tails. So when I combine that with my deep tom, oh, it's like that is actually quite close to the original. I was really pleased with that. Now let's move on down, and let me just go ahead and play all of those elements together with the vocal. You can hear the vocal. We are, we are, we are. So when that chorusy, or when the hook comes in, I should say, there's two main elements that come in. The drums stay the same, the synths stay the same, and it's really the bass and then that cool lead line, that really cool lead hook. So on the bass, I listened many times and basically just made sure that I had the right notes and timing. And so one thing that I've noticed about pop songs that I try and remake is a lot of times they'll use their bass on the kick and snare of the drum, meaning like bum, chat, bum, chat, bum, chat, bum, chat. And I know I sound really dorky doing that, but I'm just trying to show you that the bass is actually synchronized to the drum beat. So it starts when the kick hits and it ends when the snare hits, okay? So I found a bass that sounded pretty close. And then I layered it with the deep sub bass. And that just made me want to eat a sub sandwich. So after I had my bass sound, I was like, yes, I finally get to the lead line, that bending synth. So I was really excited to see if I could figure this out, and I think it worked out really well. What's happening with this synthesizer is they're actually bending its pitch. That's what gives it that really cool kind of bam. And Owl City would do this a lot. You can use your pitch wheel on your MIDI controller. You can use the pitch bend in GarageBand by doing that. So there's a lot of synths that I think sound really cool when you bend them in GarageBand. One would be the Mysterious Synth Lead. That sounds so cool. Then there's also Saturn Lead, I think is a good one to bend. This sounds very Owl City to me. Then there's also Scream Lead. Sounds a little intense. And so I used a combination of Scream Lead and the Mysterious Synth Lead, and I think it got pretty close. All right, so that is pretty much all of the instruments. I mean, there's a little bit more here and there, but let's get into vocals. And so what I did, what I did after turning my monitor off was process these vocals pretty much like I normally do, and I have a whole video called Mixing Pop Vocals in GarageBand, so I'm not gonna go into detail on this, but I did kind of my 3-part chain, signal chain, my EQ, compression, and then some master reverb. And then also, if you hit the E button, I added some pitch correction. And honestly, it's probably a little like pitcherific, but I didn't want to spend all day doing this, so I just did a couple takes at a time. But it gave me a pretty good sound and sounded pretty decently close to what they had. On a Saturday night in the summer. So I was like, yeah, that'll work, that'll work. After that, I have several low. So I have several more, turn these all off, folks. So I have several more vocal tracks, and that's kind of the name of the game with pop too, is like you're always layering vocals. And honestly, I didn't layer them as much as I normally would because I was just kind of trying to move and groove. Like in the verse, you might have 1, but in a chorus, you might have stacked like 3 vocals of the same thing plus some harmonies. In this case, I just kept 1 for time's sake. And then if it was like a highlight point, downtown, I would just sing some lower parts right there to kind of add some emphasis. Parties on Southern and downtown. So what I did with some of this processing in my background tracks is basically I just want them to be more ambient, more in the background. So I did basically the same thing, but I would add more reverb. And in my EQ, I would do something that's called a low pass filter, which I've shared about before. And basically where you just take this and you drag it down and it cuts off some of your highs in your voice and it makes you sound like you're really far away or ambient. Or like distant, which doesn't sound that great by itself, but then you put it in that good old context, boys and girls. And it sounds really nice, so it doesn't take over the lead vocal, but it adds to it. So beautiful people. So this line right here is louder than everything else, and I wanted a long reverb tail, so I gave it its own track called Wet Lead Loud. And what I did is I gave it a little bit more reverb than my normal lead, actually a lot of reverb. And then what I also did was I used automation. So that's the last thing that I would share about in this project is I did quite a bit of automation. You can bring up your automation lanes by hitting A on your typing keyboard. And so you can see I actually automated the reverb to go way up at the end of this. And beautiful people. So it's almost like it gives it this reverb tail where it trails off into something really big. So I mean, play it. And beautiful people. And it just creates this nice kind of luscious tail of reverb, which fills in space as the other vocals come in. And beautiful people. Front row and fashion show. And then I did the same thing with this one. Beautiful people. So we move on down. One of the other things I wanted to show you is an echo. So how I created an echo, you can do it on your lead track and you can automate it in and out. But sometimes for simplicity's sake, I just make a new track, an echo track. And I actually copy part of the lead vocal into this and just create like a manual echo. So it sounds like who we are. So that's just an easy kind of hack that you can use it for. And that's really about it, guys. I mean, obviously there's a lot more details. I spent probably a total of 3 to 4 hours in this project, maybe. If you have any more specific questions, then ask me below. And that's it for the project. So that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I enjoyed this process because I've actually been looking to remake a pop song for a long time, but it's really hard to find songs that aren't just all about hookup, breakups, and makeups, because that's not the songs I want to be about, and that's not the songs I want to train you guys to be about. And if you are an aspiring artist or producer who wants to make pop with a purpose, then welcome home. So in closing, I want to let you guys know that I actually have a free 5-part course on getting started in GarageBand. It's 5 videos. You can watch it in less than 30 minutes, and it'll help you get your start in writing, recording, and polishing your own music. So if you're interested in that, check out the link in the description, and I will catch you in the next video.